The files were closed, the boxes were sealed, the truth, everyone believed, had already been decided. But some cases never stop speaking. They whisper through paperwork, through photographs, through evidence no one thought to question. And sometimes, years, or decades, later, those whispers grow loud enough to shatter everything we thought we knew. This is the story of 8 cases where the truth didn't arrive with flashing lights or courtroom drama, that it arrived quietly, through evidence that refused to stay buried. The first case began inside a spotless home. Police ruled it an accident almost immediately. A fall. A tragic moment of bad luck. The floor had been scrubbed clean, the body removed, the scene forgotten. But years later, a technician noticed something no one else had bothered to question, a stain that had soaked deeper than the surface. When modern testing was applied, the result was undeniable. The blood didn't come from the fall. It came from an earlier struggle. And it placed someone in the room who had sworn they were never there. The house had been lying. In the second case, the answer had been sitting on a server for years. A voicemail. Logged, archived, ignored. Investigators heard nothing but static and breathing. But when an audio specialist slowed it down, separated the layers, and cleaned the noise, something emerged, 3 faint notes playing in the background. A radio jingle. One that aired only during a specific time slot on a specific station. Suddenly, the timeline didn't make sense anymore. Someone had lied about when they were there. And why? The third case came down to trash. A crumpled receipt pulled from a bin, dismissed as irrelevant. But it told a story no witness could. A timestamp. A location. A purchase made miles away from where a suspect claimed to be standing at the time of the crime. Their alibi didn't weaken, it collapsed. And with it, the version of events everyone had accepted. The fourth case unfolded online. A family photo surfaced. Smiles. Sunlight. Normalcy. Proof, some said, that nothing was wrong. But a forensic analyst noticed something subtle. The direction of the shadows didn't match the time the photo was supposedly taken. The image had been staged hours later than claimed. After the victim should have already been dead. Someone had tried to manufacture peace. In the fifth case, the ground remembered what people forgot. A footprint at the scene didn't match any suspect. Years passed. Then a pair of boots surfaced in a forgotten storage unit. The size matched, but that wasn't what mattered. The sole had a rare wear pattern, one identical to the print preserved in evidence. The owner insisted they'd never been there. The earth disagreed. The sixth case lived inside a journal. Page after page of quiet thoughts. Reflections. Fear left unnamed. Until investigators noticed something missing. A page torn clean from the binding. It hadn't fallen out, it had been removed. When that page resurfaced years later, it revealed a name the victim had never spoken aloud. And a danger they had known was coming. The seventh case hid inside a phone call. Emergency services recorded the length, 6 minutes. Help should have arrived sooner. When experts replayed the audio, they heard something chilling. The call ended, but the line stayed open. The phone had been left off the hook. Someone was still there. Listening. The eighth case nearly never came to light at all. Locked away in an evidence room, mislabeled and forgotten, sat an object that didn't belong to the victim, or the person convicted of the crime. It belonged to someone else. Someone investigators never questioned. When the item was finally tested, the results forced detectives to confront the unthinkable. What if the wrong story had been told from the very beginning? In every one of these cases, justice didn't fail because there was no evidence. It failed because no one listened to it. Because evidence doesn't scream, it waits. And now, as investigators reopen a case long thought settled, a single piece of forgotten evidence is about to surface, one devastating mistake, and raise a question no one is prepared to answer. By the time investigators reopened the file, most people had forgotten the name. The case had been labeled solved years ago. A conviction secured. A family told to move on. Justice, they were assured, had already been served. But justice has a way of unraveling when one detail refuses to stay quiet. It began with a box pulled from the back of an evidence room. Dust coat. Faded label. A case number no one recognized anymore. Inside were items catalogued decades earlier, clothing, photographs, handwritten notes, and one object that immediately felt wrong. It had never been mentioned in the trial. Never shown to the jury. Never explained. And yet, it was there. A small, ordinary item. The kind that means nothing, until it means everything. The original case centered around a quiet family home and a brutal crime that shocked the community. Investigators had focused quickly on one suspect. The story made sense. The motive was clean. The timeline neat. The jury didn't deliberate long. Case closed. But the evidence in that box told a different story. Forensic technology had changed since the trial. When the item was finally tested, the results contradicted the foundation of the entire case. The DNA didn't match the person behind bars. It didn't match the victim either. As detectives retraced the original investigation, the mistakes became impossible to ignore. A witness statement quietly altered between interviews. A timeline that relied on assumptions, not proof. A neighbor who had been questioned once, and never again. And then there was the silence. One name appeared repeatedly in the margins of reports, never circled, never underlined, never pursued. Someone who had been present that night. Someone who had access. Someone whose alibi was accepted without question. Why? When investigators finally knocked on that door decades later, the reaction said more than words ever could. Shock, fear, then anger. The person insisted the case was over. That it was ancient history. That the past should stay buried. But the past had already begun to speak. A new witness came forward after seeing a documentary clip online. They had been young back then. Afraid. Told not to get involved. What they remembered didn't fit the official narrative at all. They remembered a car that was never documented. Voices in the dark. And someone leaving the house long after police believed the crime had ended. That memory had haunted them for years. Now it had evidence to stand beside it. As prosecutors reviewed the case, one question echoed louder than any other. If the wrong person was convicted, then who had been free all this time? And how many lives had been shaped, or destroyed, by a lie that everyone accepted because it was convenient? The final discovery came late at night. A newly analyzed document revealed a detail overlooked from the very beginning, a timestamp altered by hand. A single digit changed. Just enough to erase someone from the scene. That alteration didn't happen by accident. It was deliberate. As the investigation moves closer to the truth, one thing becomes painfully clear. This wasn't just a failure of evidence. It was a failure of listening. Because evidence never stopped telling the story. We just stopped paying attention. And in part 2, the question won't be what happened, it will be why someone made sure the truth stayed buried. Because when the final silence breaks, the answer may be more disturbing than the crime itself.